What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. NATO, which the US is a member of, is building up troops right along the Ukrainian border, which you can see here, not in Ukraine, but on the Ukrainian border here in Lithuania as the military presence in the east with thousands of troops here, just in case there is a, you know, World War III type of situation. This is as Belarus is sending troops on the northern part here of Ukraine and sending troops into Ukraine as well, really further complicating the matters. And really, the war here in Ukraine just continues to go on here month after month. And we are looking at a potential oil and natural gas here situation that could affect the U.S. even further going into the winter months here. You can see Russia will terminate natural gas supplies to all of Europe if a price cap is implemented, which the European Union and the United States want to implement price caps to basically keep the cost of oil and natural gas down because while the price of natural gas has more than doubled since the war in Ukraine started, and this is one of the tools that Russia and OPEC plus nations are trying to use to combat this. And well, this is kind of the tug of war that the world is seeing with oil and gas prices, which have just basically been soaring. Yeah, the EU is considering a price cap on Russia's natural gas exports in order to reduce both its energy bill and Russia's ability to wage war in Ukraine. But Russia says if they do this, Russia will just completely cut off their gas to Europe. Yeah, you can see here the CEO of Gazprom said that a price cap on Russian natural gas would lead to them terminating the supplies as it would violate existing contracts. So this is kind of the tug of war here with the gas and oil supplies, which directly affects gas and oil here in the US as well. Because if you've been watching my channel, you know this that oil, gas, natural gas, diesel, they're all pretty much interlinked on a world level. Okay, so and this is exactly what we've seen here when oil and gas and the whole Ukraine war, everything spiked here even before the war started. Just when Russia put troops on the border, the price of oil started skyrocketing almost immediately, just on the threat of war. And the price of natural gas, when you go to heat your homes this winter, you're going to find out how expensive it is. It's more than double what it was about a year ago. Yeah, so very, very expensive here. And if Russia decides to cut off gas to all of Europe, it could send the price spiking even more. Even though we don't buy any gas or oil from Russia now, it will send the whole market a shortage in the market, which will cause the price to go up even higher worldwide. And when the price of oil goes up, it goes up everywhere in the world. Okay, so remember, oil is traded on a global scale. So if the price of oil is $100 a barrel or $150 a barrel, that's pretty much the same everywhere. Just like the price of IBM stock or the price of Apple or Google stock is the same everywhere in the world. So when we look at the price of oil here, which has really been fluctuating a lot here recently, about $85 a barrel for WTI crude, about $93, $94 a barrel for Brent crude. And natural gas has been fluctuating a lot here too, really been fluctuating a lot as a couple things we'll get to here in a second, but this is on a worldwide scale. This is not just for US oil or Russian oil or Saudi Arabia oil. This is worldwide oil. Okay, now US oil doesn't have a separate price than Russian. Now, Russian oil does, They do sell it separately, but for the most part, this is worldwide oil prices. Okay. Um, and when we see oil prices spike, this is because gas companies are worldwide. I mean, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, they're worldwide companies. They export and import oil from all the companies. I mean, when you look at these companies, they have a presence in pretty much every major country worldwide. And when OPEC plus nations, Saudi Arabia and Russia and the Middle East over there, when they announced the cut to lower oil production by 2 million barrels per day, we're now kind of learning that this is, from what they're saying, that this was in direct competition because of the US and the EU price cap. So this is kind of them trying to kind of get back at us for saying, or trying to implement price caps, so trying to combat the price gouging. So this just goes to show you that Saudi Arabia, Russia, and large oil companies are not our friends. They're doing everything they can to price gouge, make as much money as they can, and charge us and you and our families as much money as they can. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this. This is kind of the war on oil, the ever changing, back and forth going on right now. Yeah, and when we go into the winter months here, honestly, it's gonna be very tricky to see what happens, and honestly, it's a very high chance that all of this could get worse. Not a lot of probability that it could get better, because as we go into the winter months here, all the winter heating and winter oil, and Russia has just kind of got they really kind of got a lot of upper hand on Europe, not necessarily the US, but Europe has been trying to stockpile winter heating supplies and natural gas for months because they know what Russia's kind of up to with. They've already cut a lot of supplies on natural gas to most of Europe. And this is kind of the writings on the wall here for Europe saying, Russia is just such a large country with the second to third, Saudi Arabia and Russia are the second and third largest producers of oil and natural gas in the world, the U.S. being number one. And yeah, it's just really not a good situation. Remember, Saudi Arabia and Russia are teaming up. They're, Saudi Arabia is part of OPEC, and OPEC plus, Russia's included in there. Yeah. Now, with the election only a few days away, we have, as you can see here, a Politico forecast. Politico's not Republican, not Democrat. They have been kind of going through the numbers here on each seat and each race here on what is going to happen here. The Senate, a very, very close race here. You can see here, almost a dead even tie, remains a toss-up. The House of Representatives leaning heavily or pretty heavily, likely Republican. Governors, we predict most American governors will be led by Democratic governors, but only very slightly Democratic. So a few governors on the Democratic side. Remember, all House representatives, U.S. House representatives, will be up for re-election. On the Senate, remember that only about a third of senators are up for re-election because they serve 6-year terms, and only about a third of them are up for re-election at any given time. And remember here that on Election Day, on November 8th, there is 34 seats of the 100 Senate seats up for re-election. So remember, about a third. Pretty darn close there to the 33 and a third percentage. Okay. Of the 34 seats that are up for re-election here, those elected to the U.S. Senate in the 34 regular elections in 2022 will begin their 6-year terms on January 3rd, 2023. So remember that anybody who's elected or not reelected remains there till January 3rd. Okay, they don't just instantly leave on November 8th or November 9th. Two special elections are also scheduled for November 8th. One special election will be held to fill the final 4 years of Senator Jim Inhofe, Republican from Oklahoma, 6-year term that began in 2021, who announced his resignation effectively January 3rd, 2023. So he's going to resign here on this January 3rd. So that will be a special election. The other special election will be held to fill the final weeks of the 6-year term that Kamala Harris was elected to in 2016, because obviously she's vice president now. That U.S. Senate seat is up for regular election in 2025, so there will be a total of 35 seats because of those two special elections. So of those, 14 seats held by Democrats are up for re-election, and 21 seats held by Republicans are up for re-elections. Republicans are defending 2 Senate seats in states that were won by Joe Biden, and in 2020, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Democrats are not defending any Senate seats in states won by Donald Trump in 2020. So that really shows you the partisan split of Republican and Democratic states. Wow, it's really kind of crazy how Republican and Democratic states are really split there. Now, remember that so Republicans have a lot more seats up for re-election in the Senate. Not only do they to win to remember the Democrats have control of the Senate right now, and it's a 50-50 tie actually. But because the tiebreaker in a 50-50 tie goes to whoever the vice president is, and the vice president right now is a Democrat. It's Kamala Harris, okay? So the Democrats have control of the Senate because they control the presidency and the vice presidency, okay? So the Democrats, again, only need to win 50 seats, where the Republicans need to win 51 seats, okay? So technically, the Republicans have a harder time to win the Senate because they need to win 51 seats, and they have more Republican seats up for re-election. So they have to retain all those seats that are up for re-election and win one more seat. Okay, so they have to, if you just think about the math here, they have to win all those seats that are up for re-election and win one more seat to come out with 51 seats ahead of the game. Okay, because they can't come out with a 50-50 tie, because then the Democrats would win again. Okay, so mathematically the Democrats have a slight edge, but when they've come out to figure out like the polling numbers and like who's ahead and who's behind, it's still a very, very close race in the Senate. It's still very, very close. In the House, again, just based on the polling and who's ahead and who's behind, you kind of seen the meter there. It's looking to be pretty far ahead for Republicans in the House. So we'll see what happens there. I'll keep you up to date. And former President Donald Trump is going to be testifying here. He has been subpoenaed, and he is going to have to be testifying here right after the election. In fact, the dates are the committee formally sent its subpoena to Trump's attorney last week after announcing its intention to do so at the most recent hearing earlier this month. The subpoena orders Trump to turn over documents to the committee by November 4th, so that's not that far away, and to appear for one or more days of deposition testimony beginning on or about November 14th. So that's about a week or so after the election, which is on November 8th. Republican Representative Liz Cheney, who is not going to be reelected, she didn't even win her primary, has said the committee has many alternatives if Trump does not ultimately comply with the committee's subpoena. Although she did not elaborate on what those alternatives would be. Trump has said he would testify if the testimony was live, but we'll have to see. Remember here that recently he pled the Fifth Amendment nearly 450 times in the New York Attorney General's civil probe of his business practices. An attorney for Trump said the former president answered only one question about his name during the 4-hour deposition. So whether or not he testifies, or if he does testify, whether he pleads the fifth or does what we've seen like from Marjorie Taylor Greene here recently, where all of her answers were like, I don't know, I don't recall, I'm not sure. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comment section on what will happen. But that will be here on or about November 14th. So that will be after the election, most likely. So most likely. But he is supposed to turn over documents before the election. So this is going to be a major thing here. So you guys can let me know your thoughts here. But of course, this, Trump or Biden's not up for re-election here. But we do have a lot of governors and the House of Representatives and the Senate up for re-election here this time around as well. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Republicans are going to take control? Democrats going to keep control? Do you think we're going to see some surprises? But, of course, this is based on like polling and what they think and who's going to win and stuff. We know that sometimes that doesn't always hold true. We also kind of have some wild cards right now because more and more women are showing up to vote here based on the Roe versus Wade. And again, it's people on both sides of the aisle here based on if they're pro-life or pro-choice. A lot of women showing up to make their voices heard more than ever here based on what we're seeing here on women registering to vote here more than ever. Also, we have, gun safety issues, people signing up to make their voices heard on that. And the number one issue, the economy, as the economy is really just the number one issue at hand. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. Make sure to subscribe down below. Click the subscribe button and then the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. I just did a really good video about the economy that you should click here to watch next if you haven't yet. And you can click here to see another video about checks going out to millions of Americans here that you might not even know about. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.